Hi, I'm Meredith, and this is Rattled and Shook, a podcast where we tune into scary stories and discuss our deepest, darkest fears, but in a fun way. And today I have Dave with me.
Well, I appreciate you having me.
I'm glad to be here. We're actually in Dave's setup, so
yeah,
thanks for having me.
Of course, yeah, anytime. Whenever you want to record your own show at my place, I'm here for you.
Dave does a show called Dead Talks. Can you tell us about Dead Talks? Because I think there's actually some good overlap in a lot of the themes you talk about.
Yeah, I essentially, quote unquote, normalize the conversation around death. So, it's heavy focused on grief, especially since the birth of it 6 years ago. But I cover a lot of eclectic conversations, philosophies, discussions with people from all walks of life to essentially normalize the one thing we all have in common, which is death. So that could be grief, afterlife, spirituality, religion, lack of beliefs. I've had a pretty wide range of people on the show so far.
So do you feel like more comfortable with your own mortality at this point?
I think I do. Yeah, I've definitely gotten way more comfortable. Of course, there's no concrete answer as to, the other fears of it, of what happens. I think a lot of people fear the idea of how it's going to happen. But based on a lot of the discussions I've had in so many different perspectives from one side to the other, it's just it's given me more comfort because I've definitely had a lot of near-death experiences and those spiritual conversations. And long answer long, I'm definitely way more comfortable with it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think I fear the how, like you're talking about. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's not the most enlightened place to be in. It's more like the what then?
Well, I mean, I think it makes sense. That happens before death. So it's like that's like the next
it's
thing
the next
before
thing.
the other scary parts. Like that's going to happen first. So it makes sense to. But yeah, I think the pain, this or that, it's terrifying how it's going to happen. But then I've had interesting theories is that might not even be as big of a deal as we think too.
I love to hear that. I love to hear that.
Well, I mean, there's people have had experiences and theorize, if you want to call it that, or believe that the quote unquote soul ejects out of your body before that even happens. So it's as if that cord gets cut before you die, knowing in anticipation. So for instance, there was one woman that had a near-death experience, horrible car crash. And I believe, without butchering her story, she got kind of ejected from her body, her soul, and was able to see what was happening below. So regardless of if her body looked like she was still in physical pain before she kind of flatlined, she was already gone. So it was just like a meat suit looking like it's having an experience, but it was really not really feeling anything because the soul's gone. So you're not having the horrible experience. I believe that she believes rather that she had the choice. Like, do you want to experience this or not? And she's like, obviously I don't want to experience this. It looks terrible. So maybe there's no pain at all.
I'd like to do that. Note to myself.
Yeah, just put that in a pen for later.
I think this is a good segue point about like kind of your ideas and your beliefs around the paranormal, the supernatural. Mm-hmm. Do you believe in those things, and to what extent do you believe in those things?
I believe in them. I just wonder, I never know how do you distinguish between a real event and not a real event, because I'm sure we get duped some of the times as well, but I totally believe in them. I've heard enough convincing stories, all of them, I don't know, but yes, I think they happen.
You're perfect for this show.
I'm so excited.
And not everything that I have prepared for you is in the ghost realm. Actually, the first thing I have prepared for us calls to another part of your life, because you also have been a real estate agent.
Oh, they're going to go 9/11. I was like, whoa, okay.
Oh God!
I guess we need context for that, but whatever.
Maybe a little bit of context for that.
Oh, yeah, my dad died in 9/11, so that's why it came up. So we're going real estate.
But we're going real estate,
okay.
And that, I guess, in that context, that's sort of why like your trajectory of starting Dead Talks was like based on that experience for you.
9/11.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess we should clear that up. Yeah, my dad died on
not real estate.
Not real estate. That came after 9/11. Yeah, my dad was in the World Trade Center, Tower 1, and I was 12 when that happened. So that early experience of a big death, if you will, definitely inspired this podcast 20 years later.
I think it's pretty awesome that this is what you're becoming like an expert in. And you might not say that yourself, but I'll say that for you. But like, you're talking to people about something that most people don't talk to anyone about. So you're going to have a very interesting perspective.
I hope so. Hopefully I don't disappoint, ladies and gentlemen.
And if it doesn't work out, you can always do real estate.
Oh, yeah. I was talking about this episode. Jesus. Yeah, we're really getting morbid here.
Oh, sorry.
Thanks. Just shooting down my confidence about my own show.
You know I believe in your show.
I'm just kidding.
You know.
About 12 years ago, I was a real estate agent. Part of my sales promotion of homes included hosting open houses for listings. I ended up hosting an open house on the Sunday of a long weekend, during the mid-afternoon. I had a few people come through the house, nothing out of the ordinary, except it was much slower than usual. Also, the neighborhood was extremely quiet. My guess is most people had gone to the beach to enjoy the long weekend festivities. Just as I'm grabbing my signs and shutting everything down, I noticed a man get out of a car that had been parked down the street for, a couple of hours. He comes up to me and asks if he can tour the house now. For some reason, it just gave me the chills. He was dressed impeccably, but it was so warm out, and he was wearing clothing suitable for the office, not the weekend. That wasn't even the odd part. His smile was creepy, and his eyes were so examining. Honestly, it was all really off-putting. I'm still standing just outside of the door, in the process of putting the open house signs in my trunk. He asked me to show him around, and I told him just take a look and I'll be right here waiting. His face dropped. He seemed annoyed. He went in and walked the main floor. I could see him from where I was standing outside. He came back to the door and asked me to show him the bedrooms. I told him that there are 3 upstairs and 1 down, but that I have to wait out here to give a client keys to her property. This was totally off the top of my head. It wasn't true, but there was no way I was going in there with him alone. He seemed angry. He went up the stairs and then he started watching me from a bedroom window. Right then, I realized my cell phone was in the kitchen, so I couldn't even call for help if I wanted to. There was no way out of this. I was going to have to go into the house with this man. I was prepping myself, but after 10 minutes or so, he came out of the house, holding my cell phone. He handed it to me, creepy smile back in place, and said I was smart to not have come into the house. Then he just slowly walked to his car like he hadn't just said the freakiest thing to me, and he drove away. It was so unsettling. But it gets stranger. 5 months later, I'm at the office picking up all of my mail before Christmas, and there's a card from this guy saying that he hopes to see me again really soon at another open house. I stopped doing open houses alone after that experience, and I left real estate altogether shortly afterward. The fact that he took the time to find out my specific office location, and the worst part was there wasn't a stamp, which meant he had dropped the card off personally.
I think she clearly handled it right, not going inside the house.
Yeah.
I don't know many female real estate agents that do open houses alone in general, because it's just, even as a man, you're vulnerable in certain situations. You don't know who's going to walk into the house. Clearly Exhibit A with that, where it's just open door policy. Anyone could show up. It's marketed. They know the house is available. You don't know who's scoping the property just to see when you're in and out. So it's just a vulnerable situation for anyone, really. So
I'm imagining them like multiple people being in there, but it's like if you're just in a huge empty house by yourself with one other person.
The most creepy part is obviously he timed it out for the end of the open house.
Yes.
Because I've had people come in last minute and I'm closing up and they walk in less creepy like that, but it's not completely unforeign. But the fact that she noticed the car the entire time.
Yeah.
And then he approached.
Mm-hmm. I don't know why the suit is so weird, but it is weird. It's like, what were you going to do before or after? Or is it Was he like nervous to make a good impression?
It's kind of hard to decipher from his defense because the music is so wonderfully scored that I was scared the entire time. And, and also it was definitely over dramatic because she's saying, and he took the time to find where I was. She has a real estate sign out there. One Google to find the office.
He could have just, seen that, snapped it, remembered.
Yeah, but to say you're smart to not come in the house.
That's weird.
That defeats everything else.
So you know what? I will say this. As like a woman, occasionally, I do think I've had the experience. I'm trying to remember what it's pinging on in my brain, where some male will comment on like, I did like a really good safety thing.
Right.
And in some ways, it feels a little weird to have that acknowledged. You know what I mean? I think he was like, oh, smart on you for not coming in the house with a strange man. And then you're like, no, don't say it out loud.
Yes. Yeah. That doesn't need any validation after the fact. Yeah. That there's outs here, I think, for both sides.
Yeah, there's outs.
But at the same time, I think it was smart to leave. Like, it's kind of creepy just to have that, not to have any closure with it. When now that guy's just lingering. It
feels like whether or not it was intended, it feels like light intimidation.
It turns out this guy worked for another real estate industry. He was a competitor and just job's done now, never has to show up again. But it's just creepy in general because that is a concern in real estate in general. So that heightens it in the fact that she's in a vulnerable situation at her house by herself. Yeah. Now she's closing up. I don't know what time of year it is. It might be dark at 5 p.m. At that point too. So there's a lot of factors in there I just advise anyone in real estate to just keep your ears up. I've been in sketchy situations myself, even as a man, let alone a woman with another man showing up. So she handled it well. I can't believe she left the industry.
I know. I still think she did the right thing. It's good fight or flight.
1,000%.
Great intuition.
Yeah, good job. So now we can say that.
And now we can say that.
You handled that well.
Approved.
Approved. Check. Sweet.
My dad was a very religious man. He was very much into the Book of Revelation and historical events that line up with the end days. He would always have a date that this supposed end of the world, or as Christians believe, the rapture, was going to occur. Growing up, he would tell my mom his new rapture date, and her response was always eye-rolling, sighing, and saying, whatever. He knew it was kind of silly, so he would laugh about it too. A huge date of his was December 12th, 2012, and he even got me going on that one. There was an alignment of the planets and the end of the Mayan calendar. Of course, that date came and went, just like all the rest of them did. And we all gave him hell for it, of course. I was really the only one of his kids who loved to talk about these topics with him. We loved conversations about the universe, possibilities of the multiverse, and parallel universes. One year for Christmas, when I was in my 20s, he got me a telescope because of how much we loved the topic of space and the universe. We also really loved talking about NDEs, near-death experiences. There are crazy stories out there by real people who are both religious and non-religious, who have almost the exact same thing happen to them when losing their pulse, say like on an operating table. They die for 10 minutes and then they're resuscitated. There's usually a point when they're floating above their body and looking down on it. So we would talk about what it would be like to cross over, how it kind of sucked that the only way to truly know is to die. That's kind of morbid, but also very, very interesting. I would stop by his repair shop and have these conversations with him, and sometimes me coming in and saying like, okay, Dad, what's the new apocalypse date? I had visited him one day in maybe 2018, 2019, and he told me his new date, December 21st, 2020. All right, Dad, we'll see. It was November, and I was planning a birthday party for my daughter. My dad called me and told me he wasn't going to be able to make it because he had COVID. I was honestly just really, really annoyed because he hated going to the doctor, like most men, and our whole family was really just worried about him for obvious reasons, but really for the fact that we knew he wasn't going to see a doctor about it. It was just really stressful. My dad got sicker and sicker. He laid up in his bed, quarantined all alone. He ended up getting COVID pneumonia. He finally checked himself into the hospital on his birthday, which was November the 18th. Things did not get any better at the hospital. He was struggling so much that on December 3rd, the nurses called me and they said, "This situation is dire. You need to get up here. We're going to have to put him on life support." I knew the statistics of putting someone on a ventilator were terrible. Something like 20% of the people that were intubated survived their COVID ordeal. Don't quote me on that, but it was really, really low. One of my sisters who lives in town and I were able to dress up in those hazmat suits and basically tell him goodbye. I prayed over him. The look he had about him, it was almost like if an animal gets hit by a car and they're gasping for air. And until then, I had really been completely against the ventilator. But when I saw him struggling that hard just to breathe, to survive, I knew that it was the right decision. The nurses never had good news when we would call for updates. He was on 100% oxygen on the ventilator. He went into renal failure, sepsis, heart problems, and if he did end up getting better, we were going to have to talk about getting him a trach, which I knew he was going to hate. One night in December, my husband was having a really hard time sleeping. He said all of the sudden, out of nowhere, I sat straight up in the bed and I said very loudly, "Hi, Dad." He told me this when I woke up, and so I told him about the dream I had. I dreamed that there was a train that I was watching go by. All of a sudden, the train stopped, and there was my dad in one of the windows. I exclaimed, "Hi, Dad." It was my dad on the train, except it was not the newly 59-year-old man that had nearly almost white hair that I knew. It was my dad in his 30s, very young, dark hair, vibrant, healthy. I asked him, "Why do you look like that?" And he said, "I don't know. I went into the hospital looking one way and I'm coming out looking like this." He was smiling so big, and I said, "Wow, well, that's great." He told me it was time for him to go, and I said, "Okay, well, I'll see you later." We waved at each other, and then I woke up. Around 8 a.m. that morning after my dream, I got a horrible phone call from one of the nurses who told me that my dad lost his pulse in the middle of the night, and they actually had to resuscitate him because we still had not signed the DNR, the Do Not Resuscitate. We needed to get to the hospital immediately because even though they had him on 100% oxygen on the ventilator, his oxygen levels were only at just over 50%. He was having these grand mal seizures. His brain was dying. On the way to the hospital, I was thinking to myself, I bet that was Dad telling me goodbye last night. My sister and I arrived to the hospital. We talked to the pulmonologist and the doctors about palliative care, taking him off the ventilator and making his death process as comfortable as they could. They warned us that this was not going to be pretty. They needed to prepare us if we were going to agree to be in that room with him.
They explained that we were going to hear his death rattle. To be honest, it was way, way worse than I could have ever imagined. My dad ended up dying that morning around 11:15. And when his stomach stopped moving up and down, I made sure to look up when I said goodbye, just in case I could see something. Of course, I didn't see anything, but looking up just seemed like the right thing to do. You know, we had always talked about near-death experiences, and maybe he was looking down on his body in that moment and he knew that I was there. That night was obviously really, really hard, but I wanted to get out of the house to get my mind in a more distracted space. I thought, oh my gosh, this is the perfect time to pull out the Christmas gift I had gotten from my dad in my 20s, my telescope. It was a beautiful, crisp night, and my husband and I were alone in the dark in the middle of an old parking lot with the telescope. And it was just so beautiful. I saw Jupiter and Saturn aligned with each other in the sky. It was absolutely breathtaking. And as I was looking through the telescope, it hit me. I got chills. It was the winter solstice. December 21st, 2020 was actually the end of the world. He was right.
Shout out to Perri for this story. Perri is actually the one telling this story.
What a beautiful story.
I love when we get a story like this where it has the otherworldly elements, but it's very, very life affirming. You know, the fact that he is like an end of the world or, you know, like he's got all these theories and then he happens to kind of be right is just, she has this beautiful, like tied up in a knot story that I think is like really beautiful and lucky to have.
Yeah, and then the dream, you know, the dream holds a lot of weight too. And then
I was going to ask you about that because I feel like you must hear about some of these like dreams, because I've definitely gotten stories about people whose loved ones come to them in dreams or whatever, like around their death or like anniversaries and stuff like that. Like, have you ever heard?
Yeah, pretty frequently. I mean, it's kind of prophetic in a way. A woman on my show, Mona, she shared a story along the lines of her father coming to her in a dream, and they had a rocky relationship, and he was essentially apologizing, saying, I don't want to butcher it, but something along the lines of, I can't go without you knowing or you forgiving me or you understanding where I came from. And they had a little bit of closure, if you will, in this dream. She woke up, got a call, and then I think pretty sure on the call, she said something along the lines of, he's gone, isn't he? And there's been other stories about these prophetic dreams that have happened where it ended up being right, and there's something to that.
Even if you are the skeptic, in those moments, I'm like, you cannot deny it's still kind of impressive, the intuition you can drop into when you have a dream like, my dad's going to die tomorrow.
If you're not convinced in one way, say maybe. What happens if you just give a maybe, leave a door a little bit ajar? Because I think a lot of it has to do with what we allow. And even if you want to, again, take the skeptic route of it, it is beautiful. Like you just said, that your brain could even conjure up a dream like that, where it's so symbolic of a train going by, or for father looking healthy and peaceful to offer that comfort. And he's happy, and then you're happy, and you give a happy goodbye. I think that's way more. I think that's real, first of all.
Yeah, I mean, there's almost too much here.
There's almost too much. And that's the thing. When it's one of those things where at what point do you is there enough of a pattern? Are there enough stories from people you know that maybe give it more validity, and just stories out there where it's at least offers like, oh, okay, maybe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's enough out there if you do enough research and just talk to people. There's enough out there to, at a minimum, say, maybe. You know what I mean? Like, how many times are you going to see another man's boxers in the apartment before you're like, maybe I think so. I think she's cheating on me. It's like, you might have not seen the guy, you might have seen it in action, but like there's enough evidence and patterns going on there. It's like, let's look into this a little bit. I've heard too much. I've had experienced too much from people I trust, let alone people I just met. Sure, there's charlatans out there. You could hire a bad accountant. But to dismiss everything I just wonder the people that are so not about one thing. It can go on both sides, as like you really believe it. It goes on both sides. It's like when you challenge that thought and you get defensive about anything, like where's that coming from? Like what is the issue there?
To be honest, why wouldn't you want this for yourself? That's when I hear a story like this, I'm not going, is it true or not? I'm just going, wow, I would want this. Like, I would want as much communication from all my loved ones I could possibly have. I would want to open myself to that. So yeah, I think it's very closed-minded and kind of like sad to not want that.
Yeah, again, I've talked to people that don't believe in anything, that find a happier life because they think nothing's happening. It makes it more special now. So at the end of the day, to each their own.
How do you feel about the fact that she also mentioned the near-death experiences and the hovering over your body? Because you just mentioned that.
Yeah. Several have explained to me, which is what I thought when I kind of theorized about it, was that we see different things, experience different things to see what's familiar to us, what we're comfortable with. So as we transition, we're not just like, it's not a complete just A to B, where there is a buffer zone where maybe we have to kind of tweak our frequencies and get used to wherever we're going, so we see things we're comfortable with, whether it's our loved one, whether it's animals we love, or greenery. So we have to see stuff and maybe it's religion. Maybe we do see a God figure or Allah, whatever we believe in, because that's familiar to us in the material world. So we need to get that comfort level down before we enter the same place where everyone's going.
I've heard that when you, like in a car accident, if you tense all your muscles before impact, it actually can hurt you more, all that stuff. And if you actually relax all your muscles, which, by the way, I don't know if I could do that. I probably would tense up but if you could theoretically relax all your muscles, it's technically like a better chance that you'll fare better. Mm-hmm. And I almost wonder if it's like similar in this pre-death moment, where if you're able to have some sort of letting go moment and like release, you might be able to better experience that versus like the tensing.
Maybe. Because a woman who's a medium has had near-death experiences, I asked her that question: why do some people have near-death experiences and why some don't? Why do some see black and nothing, and why do some see some? Because a lot of people that come back from the near-death experience that see nothing, they automatically believe there's nothing happens because of their experience. I understand that. Because a lot of people that have had near-death experience often get a choice. Or some of them are just pushed back. Like my mom was pretty much, I think, when she had her near-death experience, you got to go. Some are, what do you want to do? Some are, you got to go back. Again, it's kind of a little bit of both. I'm like, no, you're not going to see anything. You got to come back. So we're not going to show you what it's like over there because it's so magnificent that you're not going to want to come back because you haven't experienced this before. You're going to be like a little puppy with a fire hydrant spitting water. Like, I'm not going back home. So I thought that was an interesting thing. I'm like, yeah, mate, why not? That kind of makes sense.
I like that.
It kind of makes sense. Great story. Wonderful. Well spoken.
We do this on this podcast, basically most episodes, but irrational fears.
Yep.
The fears that you have that are deeply dumb, but like etched into your soul, probably from some childhood experience. Do you have one of these?
Being on the 105th floor of the World Trade Center. Kidding.
That's super valid. Why'd you make me smile?
Sorry, if you guys never heard me on my show, I apologize. I have to make my humor is not a defense mechanism anymore. It's a coping mechanism. Irrational fears. Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, mine is sharks in the swimming pool. I've had it since a kid.
That.
Like, I still have it if I'm in a swimming pool alone. Like, I'm just so aware of my ankles. I look down at shadows. I am an adult. Yeah. I know it's not happening. I just feel it.
That's an interesting question. I don't know if I have anything with like, I know a shark's not going to be in a pool type fear, but I'm not very good with tight quarters. So I don't want to say a buried alive type situation, but getting suffocated, tight quarters, stuck in an elevator with an overcapacities, that is a fear that freaks me out. Also next to people that chew too loudly, but that's not really a fear. That's just a discomfort.
I have that too.
I was next to someone recently and she was chewing with mouth open, chewing, and I had to work. It's a me issue.
I need to change.
Yeah, but there's a little self-accountability to not smack your lips with your mouth open, chewing whatever you're chewing.
Look, she's not totally in the right.
Yeah, so I think getting stuck in close quarters it kind of terrifies me because I'm very fidgety, and I have the thought of not being able to fully extend my arms at any moment's notice to stretch out.
Have you ever worn a turtleneck?
Yeah, I was actually thinking about packing one before New York.
Okay.
That's flexible.
I love them now. But when I was a kid, my mom put me in a turtleneck. I literally was doing like velociraptor moves. Like I couldn't.
Maybe mine's not completely irrational, but I do think about getting stuck in tight quarters and it freaks me out. I mean, it's something I need to do to overcome it.
Well, I was going to read you one or two of these and then tell me what you think. These are just people's irrational fears. Liz G writes, my irrational fear is counting to 100. On the 100th day of school, my kindergarten taught us the concept of the number 100. The whole school of 5-year-olds was tasked with bringing in 100 of some small household object, the point of which being to allow the kids to visualize larger numbers. Some kids brought pennies, others brought paper clips. I brought buttons. When you're little, 100 sounds like a whole lot, but seeing the little piles of trinkets scattered through the school made me realize that 100 isn't very much at all. It was also the age where I was grappling with the concept of time and mortality. I learned that younger siblings will never catch up to their older siblings in age, and that all of us at some point will die. I have a distinct memory of lying in bed after a school day of counting to 100 and hearing the numbers slowly ticking upward. 39, 40, 41, my mommy's age, the voice in my head would whisper. 42, 43, 44, my daddy's age. 65, nanny, pop. These decades go by so fast. How is it that the years can be so few? I should mention that I believed in my 5-year-old head that everyone was allotted exactly 100 years to live. The reality, of course, is much darker. Even now in my 30s, the thought of counting to 100 fills me with existential dread. It's as if counting the space between the ages of my loved ones and the fated 100 is inviting the death. Like I said, irrational.
Damn, that's deep, Liz G.
Right?
Yeah, that's deep.
Liz G.
Liz G, the poet. Damn, that's heavy. It's kind of giving me anxiety, but I get it. When you were counting, it clicked.
Yeah.
And as it goes further up, it gave me more and more anxiety.
I feel it in my shoulders. I feel it in my chest.
Well, I mean, that makes sense. As you get older, you start thinking you're closer to death. We're closer to death since the beginning of this episode.
Oh, no.
But then she went deep. She said she was 5 when she started thinking about this.
Yeah, Liz, what do you do? Are you like an astrophysicist?
What the hell is going on? She's in the space right now.
I also love the idea that we have 100 years because that is such a kid thing. Like, you don't really think that anyone's 101, but you kind of think like, 100 that's probably about when it ends. Probably around 100.
Right? But then again, when I was young, 40 years old felt ancient.
Oh, yeah. And
now
I mean,
I'm about to be 37. I'm like, oh, God, I need to figure my shit out.
Back in the day, like, we would be elderly. I was reading Wuthering Heights recently because the movie, and like they're talking about how someone was so old. Later in the book, I realized they were 27.
Oh shit!
Back in the day, in the 1800s, 27 was probably like 50.
Yeah, I mean, is that just naturally
because you died earlier?
Times, or is it just stress?
It was the times, because like they didn't have the healthcare. Little routine illnesses weeded people out.
Way less sanitary.
Oh, way less sanitary. The nutrition. Well, I mean, we have our own nutrition problems.
Yeah, I wasn't if it's worse now.
Yeah, debatable. I think it's like probably not as varied then, but then like less microplastics. So
yeah, so again, this damn show, she's like, I'm turning 30, and she was having a midlife crisis at that time. This was like the 60s.
Whereas now we know 30 is the new 20.
And what's 40? The new 30?
40 is the new 30.
All right, so I still got time.
Yeah, 10 is the new 0.
Yeah, 10, you're not even. You could do whatever you want. Unless you're Liz G and you're thinking about
Liz G's on another plane.
She's wild. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Good for you, Liz G.
How can people follow your show? Where can they watch? What do you want to plug? What do you have coming up?
Dead Talks Podcast is pretty much the main handle on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, long form episodes, Apple, Spotify, long form. Same old shit. Just look up Dead Talks, 2 words. I don't know when this is dropping, but I am finishing. It's already finished. It's in the production process of my first book ever. So it's weird to say I'm an author, whether it's a good book or not. That's up to you guys to find out. But that'll be dropping in September 2026, around the 25th anniversary of September 11th, in honor of my dad and the others that lost. Book's not about 9/11 or heavy my story. It's about my journey, but it's about living with death in your life, how to live fully after grief, more or less. So it's grief focused, but it's a little deeper than that, just kind of focusing the importance of contemplating death.
Love what you do.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me, Meredith. You're the best.